Добрый день, дорогие.
Good afternoon, dear friends. We're starting our discussion, Melody 55, the role of the label in world music industry. And to begin with, we would like to ask you a couple of questions, and so that you could have an opportunity to ask questions. And this will let us to introduce the participants of our discussion, though frankly speaking, I feel a little bit awkward because I do not see our participants. Thank you. And we would like to start with 3 brief questions. First of all, do you have labels which you really follow today? So do you buy compact CDs? And the third question, what melody means for you? I understand that it is really difficult to answer the third question briefly, but just probably you should try it, and then you will have a possibility to speak a little bit about it in detail. So let's introduce our participants. Lyudmila Berlinskaya, pianist and honored artist of Russia. Hello. First of all, being part of the community of artists and performers, of course, I follow the labels, and I think this is absolutely okay. And I see that maybe I don't know everything what happens abroad and in our country, but I can say that in comparison with very serious and significant labels which exist today and which are popular on the West, for me, Melody, this is a very interesting history, a very special history. First of all, I'm honored to be a part of its history because I'm an artist and worked with Melody. And though this label has a very long history, still I believe that this is a very this label is still developing and developing very fast, and we can observe this because if we think about the 5-year history of this label, that was a kind of a breakthrough, because 5 years ago people on the West just asked if this label really exists, and nowadays nobody asks such questions, and I feel that the development of this company and the production of Melody, people follow not just in France, where I live, but in other countries of Europe and even in the United States. And tell me, please, do you buy CDs, Melody CDs? Yes, of course I do, because this is, I believe that this is, I know that internet today, is ubiquitous, but to hold in your hands a qualified product, if it is possible to say like this, and to know that what you are buying, this is absolutely necessary. It's like holding a book in your hands. So that is why I keep buying these CDs. Thank you very much. Alexander Tchaikovsky, composer and national artist of Russia, and the head of Moscow Philharmonic. Could you please answer the same questions? As for label, you would like to know, well, regarding Melody, for me, Melody, well, it's a part of my childhood and a part of my life, because I grew up together with this label. Well, when I was studying, for example, once in 3 or 4 days, I went to Melody shop on Arbat Street or on Kirov Street. And that time, Melody was something. In that time, in Soviet times, it was like, it was something that could help us to understand what's going on in the world. And today, what about today? Do you follow labels today? Yes, of course. How can I not do this? Because, first of all, my works are published, not published, but
Publish.
and today I think that the revival of Melodiya, I believe that when I am asked, for example, abroad, if I have CDs, and when I say that I do have CDs, and this is CDs released by Melody, well, yes, 10 years ago I couldn't answer this question, and now I have a precise answer, and this is very good. Especially the latest releases, Richter's and many others, they are absolutely fascinating, and I believe that no one releases CDs like these nowadays, and I believe and I hope that as we have a great number of content in Melody, and this is probably the only company in the world which possesses great potential nowadays, because, you know, nowadays, well, everybody is in confusion nowadays, but not this company. Andrei Krichevsky, the president of IPQuorum Association and the Center of Coordination for Processing Rights concerning transactions with the intellectual property, and Director General of Melody Company. So do I follow the labels? Well, let me start a little bit differently. The question was if you believe that Melody exists. It does, for sure, and her name is Karina. Now let's come back to the question. If I follow the labels, no, I never do this. I don't think that this is a result of professional deformation, because I'm inside. Well, it seems to be that it is necessary to follow your competitors, but I think that it is not necessary what your competitor is doing right now, because what really matters, the people with whom you work, the composers with whom you work, and I'm lucky to work with the composers and the performers and such great experts that you cannot think about your competitors, because I think that what really matters, how you release, how you introduce these things into the market. So the man who is, so Karina, she's responsible for the release, and that's why I feel absolutely safe about my competitors, because we are in the lead, and quite often I don't think that it is necessary to follow our competitors in this case. And as for marketing, well, you see, the market exists right now in digital form, and marketing. So that's why we're really concerned only about the market in digital form. And we don't have a lot of platforms which work with the music, like iTunes or Google apps, or probably Deezer, probably 25, and a number of, probably Yandex Music. So marketing, I think that only aggregators can bring revenue, and these aggregators, you depend on this aggregator, and that's why this is a real challenge for us, and we do have questions about this. And once again, I believe that it's not necessary to follow our competitors, because we know what is necessary to be done, and we just are to do this. So, and could you tell us your perception and your views as a Director General of Melodiya Company? Could I not please answer this question? Oh, well, okay, let's come back to this question a little bit later.
This is something which fell down on me in 2011. I didn't know how to manage that happiness, so to say. I'm still trying to deal with that. This is a kind of challenge which happens only once in your life, and I'm very grateful to my life that it has happened. Our next participant is Karina Abramyan, Director General of the Union of Composers of Russia and publisher of the journal Musical Life. Natasha, I forgot all the questions. Do you follow the labels, and what is a melody firm for you is, and if you buy their discs? I'll start with Melody. I guess the Melody company is my life. On the 1st of June, it will be the 15th anniversary. I guess 15 years is quite a long period, and I came into this company, and actually this is the story which you think about and which you appreciate, and sometimes I think that this is a suitcase without a handle, but which you cannot drop away or throw away. The state label can exist in under modern circumstances, but in difficult modern circumstances, but we try to manage to do so. This is our duty and our understanding of the fact that the Melody Company is a national legacy. And if we don't take care of them, no one will do that. If I follow the labels, of course I do. If you create a competitive product, you have to understand what people like and what they want. In Russia, it's very difficult with labels. I can name only the Mariinsky label, but we understand that Gergiev releases only himself, and this is the label of one theater. And County Music, where they release modern music, Sergei Krasenko, who does things, interesting things, and he's an enthusiast. We don't have a story that we work separately. We all work together, and we create this industry. And as for buying CDs, yes, I do, but I will never buy a CD which would look inappropriately. Of course, we buy the sound first of all, but this sound should be accompanied with good package. This is very important. And of course, digital format is very cool, but I buy things in digital format to listen to it on my mobile phone, but at home I prefer to listen music from CDs and from vinyl. Thank you, Karina. Oleg Kurozov, Director of the Russian branch of the Orchard Company. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this event. I'm very honored. We love the Melodiya label, and our staff have some relation to the Russian branch of this, and we understand how important this company for Russia is. Answering the question what company Melody is for the Orchard Company. First of all, it's a very interesting and a very unusual experience of working with such a huge catalog. When I tell my international colleagues about the archives of Melodiya, they could not believe that there was a photo of each cassette of and all our team who work in the classical music, they don't know what it is. And if speaking personally, I should say that my first record was that of the Melody Company. I'm still buying classical records in jazz and funk, what was released in the Soviet period. I believe this is a very important thing for every person who likes music and enjoys music. You also asked if I buy labels. Yes, of course I follow the labels because they're our major partners, main partners. It's very difficult to add anything to that. There are a lot of them, and we follow the labels all over the world and how they work, what strategies they use, and this is actually the main driver of our business. We know how the leading players work in different markets, and we use that in our work in all the territories, including the Melody company in Russia. If you speak about physical
storage devices,
I buy music and the CDs and records. This is an artifact fact for me when you want to have a part of these storage devices on your shelf. This is a kind of magical moment for me. This should be something very personal in order to buy that on physical storage devices. Karina mentioned that a certain physical factor has a very great importance here. Thank you, Oleg. Our next participant is Stas Namin, a musician, composer, founder, and leader of the Stas Namin Theater. So, as for the Melody company, it's very difficult for me to speak, because this is about half a century that I have known this company, and the band Tsveti started its career with that company. That was about in 1972, and since that time I've been following, not purposefully, but still, how the company develops, its raises and falls. We had Director General Mr. Demersky in the beginning of the 1970s. There is a personality who leads the company. There is a person who drives all these things and who makes a reputation for the company. And starting from Mr. Demersky, then Mr. Rizhikov, probably you don't know him. Of course, some of you do. There was a range of people who did something which we consider to be classical nowadays. The last very important person was Valery Surakanov. And after that, the Melody company began being destroyed because there were different people. It has a very big catalog which is needed all over the world or wanted all over the world. So it was sold in parts. And the Melody company actually disappeared. Those days I established my first recording company, and we became were their competitors. But actually, after that, for a long time, there was such a firm. Formally, it existed, but it was not capable of living, because all the people who came to this company only tried to get out something of that company which had been made by the others. And I should appreciate the efforts of Andrei Klichevsky, because he was an amazing person in this respect, because it's very difficult to imagine the top managers of that level. After that many years of falling down, he managed to revive the company. So what he tries to change, he achieves his goals at the international level. I'm sorry for the flattering words, but still he doesn't see me now. But still, this is a fact. The Melodiya company has become a part of this big conglomerate, which really helps to develop Russian culture. This might be high-flying words, but still, it is in this way. Blah blah is done by everyone, but who really develops something, you can count them on the fingers of one hand. He also managed to gather a team of amazing people. There is a girl behind you, Vladimir. That's about the Melody company, but in all that structure, which is being operational nowadays for the benefit of Russian culture, for the benefit of culture in general, everyone could be acknowledged as those who are personalities we spoke yesterday on the stage about. So these personalities are a treasure, our treasure. So everything depends on the personnel. So speaking about the Melody company, we should mention people, first of all, who work there. And I should also say that this year we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Цветы band. So Melody made a vinyl package. This is the first value of records, vinyl records. So all that our group recorded has been released in one volume. So I'm very grateful them for that. And I believe, whereas the issue of recording companies is getting in the background because the internet is taking the first positions. We have so in the Tower Records in Los Angeles, for example, they sell T-shirts and all the stuff like this, but not the records. And it's very important that Khrushchevsky team is working with the internet, so they are in the digital topic as well. And the digital matter in music, when such a conglomerate is acting in this field, it's very important. Thank you. In brief, could you say anything about labels except for the Melody company? I'm sorry, I cannot hear you well. Do you follow other labels? And if you buy CDs, so I buy CDs with other labels. So I repeat the question: if you buy CDs and follow other labels except for Melodiya, yeah, well, I don't follow the Russian labels. I buy CDs in other countries, but not in Russia, and this mainly happens in Amoeba Records. In Los Angeles, there is a big nostalgic store which works 24 hours a day, and for crazy people like me, they sell vinyl records and old CDs. But I really want to hold something in my hand, something material, and to see the picture. Probably these things will disappear soon, but still I have such a desire to hold a book in my hands and to turn the pages. The same is about CDs and vinyl records. Thank you very much. And Irina Gerasimova, Director General and Artist Director of the Orpheus Radio Orchestra. Thank you for this introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the Melody company for a phenomenal partnership which has been between us for 15 years. And due to this cooperation, together with our Orpheus station, we make a lot of interesting broadcast programs, and we make new programs, historical programs, and also we work with the composers of the 21st century. And as a radio station, we are probably the organization which really needs labels in working with people who produces and makes records and gives the opportunity to the stations to broadcast that for millions and millions of people. So thank you very much, and I'd like to congratulate you on this 55th anniversary, and I believe that I do hope that we'll have some projects in the future. I have some figures here. In 2016, we released 54 programs together with Melody. In 2017, 18 programs, and last year, 46 programs. So there are 52 weeks in a year. It means that every week we have a program on our radio station with the records of Melody company. But our server also has about 3,000 tracks which we use in our playlist. It means that a high percentage of our music is provided to us by the Melody company. I'd like to thank them again for this. We do some other interesting things with the Melody company. We have some mysterious and wonderful stories. Not so long ago, we met a very interesting lady who was a wife of a very famous pianist. We invited her to our studio. I'm here speaking about Vladimir Selivokin. She's his wife. And probably not many people know him. He is a kind of Rachmaninoff. And his widow, I'm sorry, I'm shifting to the other topic. We could not see him in our station because he unfortunately had died. So when we decided to make a program about him, we found some records and we applied to the Melody company. They found the records by this pianist. And now these records have been uploaded to Yandex. And owing to the Melody company, this this pianist is now available for listening. The second story, which was very important for us as a radio station, is that the Melody company for many years has had the records by Tchaikovsky contest. And we, due to these records, we had an opportunity to tell how all this started, different interviews. So all these recordings were given to us for us to be able to make a interesting historical story. So I believe that the role of labels for radio stations cannot be overestimated. This is our main partners we work with, and I do respect it very much. Do you follow any other labels, and do you buy music on physical storage devices? I personally do, but as a radio station we got away from physical storage devices because we need some storage facilities, but we do not have that. We have servers, we can have digital music. As a radio station, we do not buy physical storage devices, but but a series of unique players or musicians was made in a big box. Gillis, Richter, we also made a very big project. Famous direct conductor Svetlanov had an anthology of symphonic music, of Russian music, and there is no analogues for this. And we published two big boxes. And some pieces of music we released separately. This is not a business project. This is a project where we show our culture. So that was a perfect project, because this is what you want to have on physical storage devices. To hold it, to listen to that, and to see it. I should also say a couple of words. Radio Orpheus, being a jury member of International Classical Musical Award, ICMA Award, where the leading labels provide their records, and we always try to have the Melodiya records among those presented by the international recording community. And I should say that they are very successful, as our Russian pride, so to say. So there is no one else or nothing else to present there. So what the Melodiya company does is very good, and this is at the very high international level.
And now let's come to the discussion of our key questions to which our discussion is devoted. And first question to you. So as we understood, we had a period when the existence of label Melodiya was questioned, and now we see that there is a kind of a renaissance in the history of Melodiya company. So how do you evaluate the role of Melodiya on the market in Russia and in the world? Could I please ask this question, Karina, and then probably I will try to give you my perception. Well, of course, it's not so simple to answer this question, because of course I'm not the head of the company, and so sometimes he's flattering me, but it is really difficult to evaluate Melodiya for me, because this is a part of my life, and I think that as a part of academician music, we don't have any competitors at our market, because we don't have equals at our market, because the school of recording which we had in the Soviet years, it was absolutely unique, and this is our pride. We can call a great number of names. I'm not going to enumerate, because I'm just afraid to forget to mention somebody. And we managed to preserve the same level of school. And besides, a lot of young people are working with us at our company, and it means that we can pass our heritage. This knowledge will not be forgotten, and we continue the development of our company. And why our company is highly appreciated in the West, because this process of restoration, this is a very delicate process, and we never say that someone didn't. For example, if the director made these recordings in 1970s, he didn't understand a thing. No, our task is just to renovate it. We don't try to change it. We don't try to make it better, because we believe that it is absolutely impossible and not necessary. In the West, if an artist is released in our company, yes, we had a period when nobody knew and nobody heard about our company. Yes, it was really difficult that time. But still, we have this memory on the genetic level. And if an artist is released, it is important for him that his work should be released exactly in our company, because Melodiya, this is the quality label, and we release once again not all the works, because we understand that not all the works should be released again, because we try to understand which works are really necessary and which will gain popularity nowadays. Though at the same time we say that you will find anything you want in digital form. And besides, the price is quite reasonable, and I think that a lot of people can get access to these digital works, and you can get the subscription. If I'm not mistaken, it costs about 169 rubles, and this subscription is for 1 month, and you can listen to different tracks, and the quality is great. And especially if to say about our Russian market, we are absolutely proud of our children's history. I know that all of you experience this. I know that you recognize all the music. For example, Brahmin musicians, you can switch on this melody and you will feel better. And all these fairy tales, you can get an easy access to them in digital form, and several generations. And I think this is not the end of the story, because our future generation will continue to have an access to these fairy tales. And I think that probably the state is cannot always invest to this sphere, because there are other different things which require investments. Probably, Andrei Borisovich, I would like to ask you a different question. When you came to Melodiya company, so that was not the company which existed some years ago. So in the very beginning, when you just came to this company, tell me which problems were the most difficult for you and required, which challenges did you meet that day? So I came to Melodiya company in 2011, and I found out 2 major challenges. First of all, the first problem was, at that time, we had deputy head of Rosimущество, and so that person was problem number 1. And the second problem, well, was Abraman. Well, so the first problem we managed to overcome. And as for the second, we didn't manage this. Should I go? Well, sometimes you understand that you understand this world in a wrong way, and this problem turns to be your best option. Yes, we had a lot of challenges with this company. We lacked resources, and Melodiya at that time was owned by the state, and officials perceived Melodiya company just an object as estate, nothing more. So very strange attitude to this company from the part of the market. But the most important thing we had at that time, the team, excellent team, the people. Yes, I think that the people who are working with Karina and Karina herself, and our musicians and people who are involved in transactions, and those people who transfer their records to digital form, and those people who are involved in our catalog organization. And these people are very valuable for us. On one hand, this is a problem because I'm responsible for these people, and I appreciate their efforts. So we tried probably not to preserve the label, but to keep the people, because that was the core value of the company. Of course, people are changing. Sooner or later, we leave. And of course, our today's team will be changed. But it becomes obvious today because, and people who are close to me right now, and they prove this, we understand this team got its place in the history of our company, and they are absolutely fascinating. Tell us, please, a very important person was the process of digitization. And when the company went digital, so how difficult was it? Well, we are still engaged in this process because we haven't finished. We had a lot of physical records in Melodiya. So and about 90,000, for example, video analog tapes. You just probably don't understand how difficult it is to deal with these ancient things. And digitalization of all those things, it was a Herculean task. And to fasten this work, you can just attract more people for this. And we don't have these people. We don't have that number of experts because we have the school, but it is limited. And at some time, we started going digit, making agreements. And that helped us to facilitate the process. It helped us a lot. And thank you very much, my colleagues. Though we still have a lot of challenges, but I'm very grateful for your contribution, which was really valuable for us. Well, not everything is so easy, but, and frankly speaking, that was a rescue for us because the process was so difficult. And now about 80% of everything, of all the physical things are digitalized. And we are still doing this. And now we are working with those records, the quality of which is not so great. And we have colleagues here in this hall. And for these colleagues, we started doing the revision of everything we possess. So the records of Tbilisi record studio, and it turned out that we have quite a lot. And a number of them are still not digitalized. And some of them we managed to transfer them in digital form. And I think that, my friends, it will be really interesting for you because, well, just I opened some files which Karina uploaded, and I see that the number of these tracks is enormous. And we will need your help. We will need the help of Tbilisi studio, record studio, because we like Georgian cuisine, but we don't understand the language, and that's why we need the assistance. And at these, I wanted to add, Melodiya, for me, this is a cool way and path into the world. Not so long ago, I met with Bitfury director, and this company is involved in mining. It's a huge company, and its director told me, yes, when I come to your country, I always meet with the president and prime minister. And at the same time, I can talk to this person because due to the fact that I'm the head of Melodiya company. Or Kyrgyzstan, I got acquainted with the president of Kyrgyzstan, and we started digitalizing Kyrgyz records. And frankly speaking, it was not so easy to digitalize them, but.
So in general, digitalization is very difficult and very long process. We've been doing that for as many reasons as the Melodiya exists. Thank you very much. One more question to you and Karina. Today we are very proud and happy to speak about Melodiya, and we are very happy about the boxes which been released. And now that a lot has been done, what are the most perspectives for you, and what are the main trends of your development and your label? You or Karina, please. Honestly, my task is to preserve and to release something. What Andrei sees, I don't know. So what Andrei tells us, we'll do this. Straight or left, right. Yesterday we had a session of human capital, and professor from the International School of Economics said a very precious thing. The best way to develop the human capital is its development. With Melodiya, now it's very important is to work, is human capital, and to work with it. Where will we get to? We don't know. I can see my colleagues from the first musical publishers, friends. Do you understand in what direction your label develops? Do you have a strategy? Maria, can you say a few words? A few words, please. I want to hear someone who has a strategy. Could we have a mic, please? Maria doesn't look very happy about this. Let's applause to her. Applause. So, in what direction does your label develop, and what is the strategy and plans? So, I believe it's easier for us because except for the distribution of musical content, we have musicians. So, our label is developing towards musicians. These are concerts, shows. We try to raise young artists, musicians. It does not correlate very much with the Melodiya company. The labels which work not only in distribution, but have an opportunity to raise to grow new artists, new stars. I think it's a very good field of work and very perspective, and we could earn money on this and to support our musicians, which are and writers of lyrics. Our young musicians and our young generation does not understand and downloads only music which is in trendy music, but I believe that one of the directions in the future will be a retro. We have to preserve our authors and our big albums and big releases such as Dobrinin, for example, Kuzmin, Butusov. They are still making new albums, but I think that in time or sometime later our young generation will listen to different kind of music. So we should help and support young musicians. Thank you. Our strategy is almost the same. I absolutely agree with Maria. She mentioned this trends absolutely sharply, and she was absolutely right that we need to raise new artists, new young musicians. So you said that it's very important to preserve, and the Melodiya archive is very big, and you could use it for quite a long time, only to re-releasing. all things. Natalia, if we don't make any records, then we are turning into an archive. Then we are not a label, but an archive of Melodiya. Of course, it would be much easier for us because we would need 3, 4, 5 times people less than we have in our company. But if we are a label, we have to make records. We make money by publishing archives or releasing archives, and we invest this money in new records. We should leave something after us. This is a problem that nowadays very few things are recorded, and I believe that in 50 years there will be a gap, or it exists somewhere on YouTube without good sound, without good filming, so it's not serious. So I mean to say that is why we pay attention to young musicians, we record them, but we select them very thoroughly. With many musicians, you can all musicians you cannot. I believe in old great names, but it's impossible to make money on publishing them. So once we released Richter, that was a big box with 50 records. I was going somewhere to her summer house. I went to that summer house. I sat down on the porch of Richter's house, and I asked a blessing from him because we made a very terrible story, very important story. This recording of Richter's works. We released 1,000 items. That was his anniversary. That was in 2014. That was 100th anniversary of Richter, and I said that we were hesitating if we should do that or not, because there was an economic crisis in Russia. So Andrei said then that we should do this release, but do this in the way that no one does. So we made the first release of that, then we made the second release, and the second 1,000 we sold. Now it is possible. Now they are sold at $5,000 for each. So, but this is a difficult story. And for the money earned, we published Gillis. Some people like Richter, some like Gillis. So the money which we earned on Richter, we published Gillis. So this is the way how we work. And I do believe that when I asked Richter to bless me, I got this blessing. This is not marketing at all, but this is the way how we did that. So as far as we're talking about singers or musicians, I'd like to ask Marina Belinskaya. You are a musician who work in the west of the country. You have had recently 2 albums released. So what is the difference between the labels in Russia and in the West? And why do you work with Melodiya? Yes, I made records in the West with Virgin label, classic label, many French labels, but I should say, if we are telling stories here today. My story is quite simple. There was a routine project with Arthur. That was our second disc together, and we thought about the label where we should go. That record was on Prokofiev, and we started to looking for this label in Russia. We believed that Melodiya worked only with archive recordings, but now in this hall we have a smiling person, owing to whom we today there where we are now. So we're very proud of that. And I was told call Andrei Borisovich, who received me and agreed to make this recording. I suggested something else, and they again agreed. I mean to say that Melodiya releases CDs. We may speak about how long it will last, who needs that, and if we buy CDs. But I should say that, of course, everything depends on the team. And we have a very phenomenal team. And as a musician, I may say that such an attentive attitude to a musician I have never come across. This is absolutely personal, a human attitude. And there is another phenomenal attitude from Melodiya. This is a risk they take upon them. Western companies very often reply to some uninteresting proposals for them. They respond negatively. As for the Melodiya company team, and Karina, first of all, they are front runners in the world, and these are the things which will leave after us. This is a great historical background, and this is an incredible modernization. Using this opportunity while I'm chatting here, I would like to say that Melodiya company, probably very much in lack of their own recording studio, I'd like to thank them very much that they are giving us an opportunity to make records in the best studios in Moscow and many other places. But I wish that we had our own studio with perfect acoustics. This is just my wish. Then I have a question to Stas Namin. Once you came up to the need of creating your own label, what made you do so? Those days the situation was simple. Melodiya was a state-owned company and was subordinated to the ideology of the state. That is why it prohibited everything that needed to be prohibited. And when in the Gorbachev times, when we had an opportunity, when Gorbachev said, which is not prohibited by the law, that is allowed, then Melodiya. So the story goes like this. We were students at Moscow University those days, and there was a kind of contest between different educational institutions, and all those institutions took part, teams from all these institutions took part in the contest, and 3 bands were laureates. So, and as students, as winners, we had a right to make a record. And then, all of a sudden, those days when no one spoke about rock music, it didn't exist in the Soviet Union. Well, I'll get to some other thing now. Not so long ago, about 2 weeks ago, an English ambassador called me and invited me to lunch. And he said that there was a famous studio in a church, and about 20 years ago it had been given to the English church. And now they think to restore this church, and invited me because I started my musical career at that church. So I and Andrei Khrushchevsky went there, and in this church we had a concert, and we played Jesus Christ Superstar. That was surreal, absolutely surreal. Can you imagine, just in an operational church, the priest asked us to put on the stage to play Jesus Christ Superstar in England, and then all of a sudden in Moscow we make live concert. So, and the church where the records by Melodiya, the church was restored. I agree with the fact that there were no enough studios, but those days the state just gave us the studio with a wonderful equipment, Hammond organ. We had Plastley in. Remember that it was in 1972. No one those days knew this word. I would like to say that it's not necessary to have your own studio in general. If you speak about majors in the world, not all of them have their own studios. It's not so much important, because the studio is an absolutely different story. There are wonderful, amazing studios in the world. There are professionals who can make records. Bureau does not belong to any label. In London, there are 3 or 4 studios of that level which do not belong to no label. The point is not about the studio. The point is about the team. We all must be grateful to the perfect team of Melodiya, because our music not in the hands of managers, but in the hands of people who understand and appreciate music. This is unreal. Nowadays we have a situation when many musicians believe it's easier to make their own label rather than to record somewhere. Why is it difficult to work with big companies? Are you asking me? Yes, you and people around you. What do you mean difficult to What do you mean? Could you repeat your question? My question is, why is it easier to establish your own label but not to go to major companies? Well, actually, I don't know who does this. So this is an absolutely different topic. I just organize my label. This is a very serious step. I have a friend in London. He organized the Virgin record in England those days. It meant that there was a lot of money behind him, so he could not do that other ways. In 1991 in Russia, I did not need that much amount of money when I organized my studio. So, in my opinion, such major, serious recording companies have lost this gap. So there is no gap between different labels. So nowadays, any person can make a recording by himself. You can do that at home. I made some albums in Rabbit Grove Studio. So this is a separate topic.
So I would like, well, the equipment is the same everywhere, and probably it costs not so expensive now as just in comparison with the previous years. And recording, this is not an exclusive activity. The same studio, to release an album, you understand that this costs, for example, $2,000, and how to promote this album, then you have internet, and internet is the same for everybody because everyone has the same access to the internet. And probably that is why it's not really necessary to have your own recording studio, because it is not so significant. It is good to have this studio, but not really necessary. For example, someone uses such labels and names as Warner Brother. Well, so what? If you have a strategy, if you have the right and complete catalog, then you can become competitive, and then you probably can win. Based on your catalogs, probably you have more than those people who don't have anything than the access to the internet. But this is the only difference. You don't need to go to huge name companies or labels, because just not so long ago I released an album and I went to a pharma company, and I should say that when a company is not huge, then they treat their authors more attentively, and they treat us better, because when you address a huge company, they are usually indifferent to your needs. And some years ago, everyone wanted to go to this huge company, but there is no difference. Nowadays, everything became simpler. We have different mechanisms, and advertisement and video clips. These videos, well, yes, major companies, they paid money for creation of these videos, and because that was the way how it was possible to advertise something. And nowadays majors are not aiming at this, and that's why we have there is actually no difference to whom to address, a major company or not. Probably this doesn't correlate or doesn't resonate well with what has been said, but that's my perspective. And I would like to tell you, from my position, I would like to tell you a bit about my company, what we're doing for our clients. Well, we're not absolutely, it doesn't matter who addresses and who comes to us, a well-known artist or just the beginner. For us, it is important to understand his strategy and his aims, and then when we have the right contact and when we have the right management, then we can follow and we can develop and create projects. The projects we are doing actually is huge projects, very popular ones. And this is just the way how an artist thinks, and he should be ready to develop himself. There are labels which are created completely from zero, And in our time, when you know how to manage your audience, how to manage the streams, and how to keep the interest to your activity, then you can be independent and you can do effectively what, for example, major companies can suggest to you on the market. So once again, this is the potential of a human factor. Tell me, please, major companies, do they have certain requirements for labels? Should labels correspond to certain conditions? And what about Melodiya? Does it have some probably advantages or disadvantages? Well, that's not the point of requirements. These are different factors. Probably I shouldn't talk about these factors in detail, but tell very briefly. We understand how to make business and what is necessary to make this business. Any activity should be should be based on financial, of course, component. But in our interrelations with the Melodiya company, this is not just business. This is more than business. Well, the second part of your question was if Melodiya had advantages or disadvantages in their work with major companies. Well, to speak about disadvantages is probably will be not right, will be not appropriate. As for the advantages, I think that the major advantage of Melodiya company, this is the uniqueness of its approach and the uniqueness of its catalog. And a huge advantage is unreal potential of the catalog, which we can effectively realize together in different parts of the world, and we can see the results. Karina has told you about Richter, and I remember about a different major project. And there was quite a few, enough of these successful projects, and we still remember about them. And I hope that this was not the last project, and we will have many more. And we would be really glad if Melodiya had more resources to work with us. And I think that we are not using. Probably we're not using even half of our resources to do the project, to get involved into the projects we can do together. And we can still develop this potential. And we are open for cooperation in this. Thank you very much. And we've spoken to the companies, and I would like to address the composer. So your first records, you worked when your first records were released, you went to Melodiya. So tell us, please, what about your nowadays situation? How do you work? Is it important for a composer to keep in touch with labels? Well, I should say that when my first record was released, probably that was the year 1976. That was one of the melodies I wrote for the theater, and that was the music for 3 musicians, and of course that was my first experience with an orchestra. So that was the main task was to create something so the children could understand what orchestra means. And I created a piece of work together with Mikhalkov, and that was my first record, which appeared at Melodiya company and which released in this company. I didn't have any relationship that time. I wasn't even there when the record was was released. I just remember when I bought the record in one of the shops, and when I finally saw my record there. So this relationship started when my first opera was recorded. which was staged in Pokrovsky Theater after, and if I'm not mistaken, that was in 1977, in summer. Yes, in summer in 1977. It was a absolutely, there we had absolutely fantastic atmosphere, and Peter Kondrashin, with whom we were friendly, with whom we became great friends later. So that's how my opera was recorded, and Pokrovsky himself was there. After that, the recording was, when the record was ready, they told me that it was ready, and then the record disappeared, and it was never released. Why it didn't release, I still don't know. And only when I got acquainted with Andrei Krichevsky, I asked him, probably you have a copy of that record, though it was released that time 40 years ago on tape. And he said, well, I will try. And he promised me to look for that tape. And just in three days, he called me back and told me that, yes, that record actually exists. And then I asked him, could he explain why that record was not released? Well, he was not able to answer me that question, but I can guess that it was not released because of one of the fables. Which one? That was the fable. I don't remember how it was called. The main, well, there were two gods there, Iak and some other. And probably they didn't like the dialect. Tsar died, who didn't do anything. And the main god, he let this deceased Tsar get into the paradise, and his helper asked why he let him do this. Well, and because he was not the one who was supposed to get to the paradise, because he was absolutely stupid. And he decided just to get him there, just to prevent him from staying in the real world. And Pokrovsky decided to. So this fable was recorded, and I believe that because of this plot, it was not released. Probably it was that reason. And I'm really happy that in 40 years, this opera, my first opera, was finally released, and I heard it, and suddenly I completely forgot the music, frankly speaking. And suddenly I heard the colossal quality, how the record itself, the quality of the record was absolutely fantastic. And I'm really grateful to Andrei and Karina. Well, the point is that there are a number of other records in Melodiya catalog. I can tell you another case, another story. When I was walking along Gorokhovaya Street in St. Petersburg, where Oblomov lived, and there is a bookshop there. So I entered that bookshop, and I see a lot of records there, probably several thousand. And a professor was selling his collection. And each record cost just probably 20 rubles. And I saw a record of Paganini's concert with the Vitya Tretyakov. who was my friend, and I bought this record. Though I had one, I already had one. The second, and I know that this record was awarded at Tchaikovsky contest. And so some time passed, and Tretьяков, who was among the members of the jury, and I showed to him this record. And Tretьяков told me that he didn't have this record. That was strange. And he told me a different story. It was in 1966 when he got his first award, and in the evening the results were made public. And Viktor Tretьяков, he got a golden medal and the first award, and he wanted to go and celebrate. Then there was a special order from Furtseva, so that immediately a record should be released, and this record should be, probably Furtseva wanted to present that record to somebody, probably to Brezhnev, and so Tretьяков went to, together with the orchestra, and at night in Kirche, they made this recording. Well, I don't think that he was lying. He was absolutely sober that time, so probably he was telling a truth. And so he told me that they recorded from the very first attempt, and you just do not understand. You cannot imagine even, because the quality of him playing during that record was absolutely fantastic. And when I was listening to that record, I got this impression that, and Melodiya released in the morning, I don't know how many records, and these records were taken somewhere, I don't know where, and Tretьяков told me that that's why I don't have such a record, and Tretьякov asked me even probably to sell him this record.
So if we're talking about catalogs, I mean to say that there's a phenomenal night recording by Tretьякov. Even though it was on sale, it was very difficult to find it. Yes, we at the artistic councils, so-called artistic councils in the Soviet Union, we had very wonderful and amazing conductors and sound record directors. Once I was at the recording at the Philips company in Mariinsky, but the attitude of sound directors was absolutely different from that of ours. As an artistic director of the Philharmonic Orchestra, could you tell me, you make a lot of broadcasts of concerts. Didn't you think about releasing that in cooperation with labels? I have been thinking about that, and I'm still thinking. And I believe there are a lot of records which are of very high quality, and in the future probably they could be released. There is only one point. some players or musicians find some drawbacks in their recordings. They are in doubt about the quality of their work. So this is the problem. My concert was released because it was very perfect in terms of quality of so this CD was released, and Marina is me. Sometimes he calls me Marina. I call him Peter Ilyich. So that's how we live in the Union of Composers. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I need to ask one question to Irina. How does your radio station choose labels for cooperation, and what's the difference between cooperation with Russian labels, Melodiya, for example, and the Western ones? Probably this is a question to program director, because with labels, people who make playlists work with labels. It's not my field, but I would like to repeat it, that it's very important for us that everything we choose or select would absolutely satisfy the requirements of our listeners. We have sociological data who this listener is, what he wants to hear in the playlist, what kind of program he would like to hear. And that's the principles or criteria of the selection. If we need some concrete recording, as an example, yesterday we had a 100th anniversary of Yuri Silantev, the conductor of the orchestra, and we were selecting recordings from the orchestra, from the All Union Orchestra of Radio and Television, to celebrate this anniversary. So this is the occasion on which we could find a concrete recording. A lot is being chosen by our director from the press releases sent by our partners, for example, in ACM Awards. These press releases are very interesting for us. We listen to them, and then we choose something from them. So this is quite a long process. I guess it would not be very good to discuss this in detail here. Thank you very much. If you have some burning questions, probably we have an opportunity to ask one or two questions. I'm sorry, we don't hear the question.
Частично, конечно, они есть, потому что мы получали курдубли, конечно. Откуда у нас грузин так много? Потому что в Тбилиси оставлялся экземпляр, и, естественно, привозили в Москву. Санкт-Петербургской, да. Не, ну записи Мравинского, конечно, у нас есть. Ленинградская студия это было. Да, по-нашему это была Ленинградская студия. Конечно, поищем, конечно, посмотрим.
Да, Ольга, пожалуйста, Ольга Русанова.
Ольга, ну знаете, сложно, если не подбирая слов. Мы же делали попытку летом, и мы стучали во все колокола, мы делали предложения, мы говорили о том, что и Союз композиторов, и Мелодии, мы готовы создать такой, это уже идея как раз Андрея была, кластер, да, чтобы это была и звукозапись, и мастер-классы, и, безусловно, Союзу композиторов тоже нужна своя площадка. Нас собрали, нас выслушали, а дальше сказали: отойдите, ребят. Не лезьте, вот чего вы, вот и все. Ну, к сожалению, а так это не нужно никому. И у нас не было единой позиции, потому что там оркестр, и нам надо было выступать единым фронтом. В общем, борьба же тоже должна была быть единой. Оркестрам обещали одно, было понятно, что вот сейчас оркестры же пойдут тоже на улицу. А им пообещали, что репетиционные базы, вот это был конфликт летом, да, по-моему, Андрей? Им обещали, что репетиционные базы им оставят. И они как-то решили, что ну попробуйте мелодии, поборитесь сами. А если бы мы выступили там Федосеев, Башмет, Мелодия, Союз композиторов, наверное, было бы, ну, да, мы и выступали, но потом как-то начались в наших рядах, в общем, брожения. Да, и нам тоже очень жалко, и мы общались со звукорежиссерами, мы все это понимаем. Мы сделали все, что от нас зависит, но к сожалению, это вот так. И да, мы знаем, что студию фактически разобрали, и что там теперь офис.
Мы подготовили реально финансово и объективно обоснованный бизнес-план ремонта, восстановления, улучшения студий. Но в одной уважаемой государственной структуре нас убедительно попросили не предоставлять это в администрацию президента. Мы не предоставим.
Я, кстати, недавно разговаривал с директором Дома книги на Арбате, на Новом Арбате. И они говорят, что нас тоже закрывают. Говорят, Дом книги не должен быть в таком месте крутом. Здесь должен быть торговый центр. Поэтому так особо дергаться-то не надо, все в порядке.
Вот Ольга всегда умеет задать вопрос, самый неприятный.
Все нормально.
Прямо
Нет,
давайте для того, чтобы
очень
закончить.
приятный вопрос, только на него, к сожалению, я сейчас
да.
отвечу, опять будут какие-нибудь прекрасные звонки, рассказы о том, что мелодия рейдер.
Да, нас обвиняли уже в чем
Да.
только угодно. То есть, конечно, мы же какие-то бизнесы у нас интересы у Мелодии.
Да, мы же не государственное предприятие.
Да, мы не государственное предприятие, мы же. Просто там реально силы очень. И ходили мы, и были мы в администрации президента, и говорили мы, да, мы предложение не озвучили, но мы говорили, что да, мы можем, и это нужно городу, и мы общались с Марией Соболевой, да, со звукорежиссером, и Павел Лаврененков, и Михаил Спасский, все те, с которыми мы работаем. И дело не просто в аппаратуре, дело в том, что это здание строилось специально под это здание в здании, это как бы здание, коробка в коробке, и там прекрасная звукоизоляция. И сейчас никто ничего не построит такого. Мы все это знаем, мы все это на пальцах объясняли. Мы в журнале «Музыкальная жизнь» все это освещали, петиции все подписывали, но, к сожалению, это же там наверху решаются вопросы.
Есть другие аргументы. Правда же?
Ну, чтобы на этой ноте не
чё вы?
заканчивать, и так как вопросы
Я
поступили...
думаю, что все люди знают, про какие аргументы идет речь. Всего было 3 студии в Москве. «Мелодия», Дом звукозаписи и Мосфильм. Остался только Мосфильм. Я имею в виду 3 студии, не значит, где хорошо делать, хорошо могли делать и в другом месте. Но объективно настоящие профессиональные студии было всего 3. Теперь осталась одна, которая под большим вопросом, правда, исполняет...
Сейчас еще в Доме музыки открыли новую студию.
как открыли?
Репетиционные залы, новые, они
Нет,
очень хорошо это анонсировали.
Все-таки симфоническую записывали в Большом зале консерватории. В принципе, там тоже, кстати, хорошее оборудование, очень хорошее оборудование стоит. Я сейчас говорю о профессиональной студии, которая как бы не только для симфонической музыки. Но по большому счету, большой зал, я записал там сейчас ту же симфонию с Плетневым. Записано там в Большом зале живьем, очень круто. И, конечно, там оборудование очень хорошее, и мастера очень хорошие. Поэтому так уж прям говорить, что нет студии нельзя. Но профессиональные студии осталось вот только на Мосфильме, которые для этого сделаны специально. Ну, конечно.
Бросайте вы уже эту лирику, есть зарядье, все хорошо.
Давайте я вам расскажу
Вот
одну
нормально,
историю
смотрите,
напоследок.
так всё
Андрюш,
звучит.
расскажу напоследок одну историю смешную. Про деньги. Когда начали торговать про деньги, так у нас была одна... Я с Юрой Башметой летел где-то откуда-то из Франции, и мы что-то выпили немножечко интоксикации. И он говорит: ты знаешь, что ты мне 100 рублей должен? Я говорю: с какой стати? Он говорит: нет, уже не 100 рублей, за столько лет уже обросло это процентами, поэтому там надо посчитать сколько. Я говорю: что такое вообще? Откуда вообще? Оказывается, он, когда приехал из Львова в Москву, на альте халтурил, записал «Звездочку моя ясная» у меня там на мелодии. Представляешь, там Силантьев собирал, там кто-то у него болен был, собирал кого-то еще. И Юра, представляете, записывал «Звездочку», не знал, цветы там, да, подхалтурить. Ему не заплатила мелодия. Так что надо ему... Я перевожу на тебя, перевожу стрелки. Так что...
Мы должны Башмету. На этой ноте мы все поняли.
Уважаемый Юрий Абрамович, официальное заявление фирмы «Мелодия». Мы вообще готовы, пожалуйста, скажите сколько.
А завтра приедет директор как раз, вот мы попробуем договориться со скидкой, чтобы нам... Да.
Дорогие друзья, всем большое спасибо. Спасибо участникам, спасибо за вопросы. И через 15 минут напротив начнется, на стенде фирмы «Мелодия» начнется концерт Московского ансамбля современной музыки. Мы вас всех приглашаем туда. И еще раз всем большое спасибо.
Да, завтра, да. Да, Грищенко будет завтра здесь. Ой, Господи, ну это такие... Вам надо забрать с собой, Герасимовна. Это же... Это вообще, да, ну, блин, тут только еда, забирайте, конечно.
Лет цветы.